maybe this one will make it on the YouTube channel. So here we go. Low impact and full body toning. We are going to start right off with a low impact move with or without your Eric's pad, a big cushion from your sofa. Maybe you actually have a step riser from aerobics back in the day. I kept my step for, I don't know, probably 20 years. I used to travel around with like my whole trunk used to have just all training gear. Like there was no room for anything else. You'd pop the trunk and I'd forget. I'd go to the grocery store and I'd pop my trunk to put my groceries in, and I'd be like, and I would never be able to put my groceries in the trunk because it always had training gear in it. How can you forget that? Like it was never not empty. So anyway, switch sides. My the car right now actually has fallen into that same category. So I am never not without all of the stuff that I could possibly need. And the funny thing is my Tuesday morning class, I literally take all of my toys in and then sadly, like use one of them. And then at the end of the class, I'm like, we forgot to add that into our workout. So you're going to go back to leg number 1. You're going to step up, tap. I was working with a client the other day, and he found this extremely hard. He's so heavy on his feet, and balance is a huge issue, that the tapping, what's required of the full loaded leg with the tap assist without having hand support, he's unable to do it with a rhythm and a stop point because his body is so reliant on the use of both sides of his body. And go to other side. So even if you don't have your little Eric's pad, right, you are in forward and back transition. All of these little step patterns moves can be done. If you find that working on your pillow creates too much of a challenge, get away from it and try to establish control without your accessory. All right. So I know that some of you are raring to go, and we're going to go back to leg number 1. And instead of the tap onto the Eric's pad, you're going to just go into the next advancement, which is a knee up. You might not be able to advance to this, right? Sometimes we think we have a better control than what we actually do. And so you only know that when we do this. It's called a gradient, okay? When you successfully do components of your movement and the component that you're on seems too easy, it would be a natural thought that you're like, oh, I'm ready for the next level. Well, this is the next level. But guess what? What if you can't do it on your pillow because it causes too much instability in the ankle and the knee? Step away from your pillow and see if you can slow your tempo down, right? And get it that way. You got about 3 more. Don't worry about my pillow being all cockeyed. Yours may be crooked too, but this is why you visually reference your gaze down so that you can plant your foot where it needs to be instead of perhaps stepping off your accessory. And now switch sides. So the first couple are going to be with the step tap, right? Just to reestablish your pattern. When you're ready, see if you can pull your knee up. Step, pull, down, and tap. So often, I'm going to turn to the side to show you this next little thing. This is what I see a lot when I work with people, is when their body's trying to learn something new, okay? We were in step tap, and now the advancement is for you to step and knee lift. Sometimes when we go into the knee lift, the foot wants to fold and tuck under the butt. Try not to let that happen, because there's something about drawing the foot forward that changes your connection of what the rest of your parts do. So you can even run your own experiment. Do some of them with just the leg bending back, and then see how much harder it is to pull your leg up. Just that alone may be enough to throw you off your track, but let's do 4. The arms pushing and pulling, right? 3, make it more precise. Opposite arm pulls forward to the lifting leg, right? So if I didn't spell it out, release and relax, if I didn't break every component down and spell it out, sometimes the complexity and the challenge might get lost. You might not truly identify why we're doing something and where is the hardest part of that something. So now, if everything's feeling good, you can pick up speed, your pillow's kind of just out of your equation for a moment, right? You're gonna do this little sweep with the arms, sweep. Oh my goodness. I feel we have so many things in this house out of sorts because everything that came off the boat is now in the house, and there's really not enough cupboards to store it. So everywhere I look, it's just, I'm like, whose house is this? And secondarily, something really fabulous is getting ready to happen. We have called the garage people who do garage design, right? So we're getting this whole like closet, cupboard, workspace, getting ready to start that. And then the floor epoxied, which is going to be beautiful and clean and everything back in its proper place. But again, everything has had to come out of the garage. So I'm like, everything that I look at makes me feel jumbled. 2 steps side to side, 2, okay? That's what I feel my energy is. So this morning, you all know, I only set an alarm clock on Monday night. Maybe you don't know that, because Tuesday morning, I have to be somewhere early. So last night, I did not set the clock. My body woke me up at 5 o'clock, and I got to decide, do I actually want to get up? I opted to not. Give me tick-tocks, tick-tock. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to lay here for a minute. Push, push, push. Let me show you the profile. What if your push is allowing your leg to come forward? I know this seems like, how could you possibly do this, right? Like you would know if your leg is flaring forward and wide and the spine was collapsing, right? You would know that if your body was doing it. Don't do it. I see that all the time. I see the foot turn out, right? The body just gets slack. And I wonder, how can they not know that that's what their body's doing? So instead of looking directly at the screen, I want you to look down, and I want you to look at the direction that your leg is tracking. It should be reaching towards your side wall straight out. And then you're going to look at what direction your big toe and your heel are pointed. You're going to say, oh, that shouldn't be that hard to control, right? So when your feet are on the floor for that nanosecond before you get ready to lift the leg, your toe should be pointed straight ahead. And when you lift your leg, you should be trying to slightly turn the foot in with the anticipation of counteracting the tracking position that the leg wants to go in. This is your turn to control your limb to be precisely lateral line and foot, it's called adducted, internally rotated. Those hips should be on fire because we've slowed down. Balance is the key. Your leg doesn't sweep up uncontrolled. It just slightly pulls away from the other one. Body's in check. And now you're like, but it takes so much more thought and control. Absolutely. But it's working some very specific muscles. Give me one more each side. Look down and walk it off. Whew. We are going to sit for a moment. There's a slight inner conflict that I have with sitting and training at the same time, because being seated is like the silent killer. So we sit so much during the day. Why would we sit during a training session? Because we're just going to give ourselves a little bit of a QL stretch. Okay, so if you're sitting on your chair, kind of come to the edge, right? And then extend that leg. And you need to find a way to not sit back in your chair so that when you extend your leg, your hips are propped, but you feel like your leg can have a nice long length. This is a really easy way to get a nice little QL stretch, but you might feel like you have to anchor. You're not going to lean so far that you put your elbow on the chair, right? Maybe you grab your other knee, right? And all you're doing is leaning to the side. My body has this bendability that I can reference and press my elbow and forearm into my other leg to help brace me. But this is a nice modified QL stretch. I find that when we do our little hip abduction, side to side kicks, that so much of the hip gets fatigued, and those muscles, though they need to be strong, it feels good to stretch it afterwards. Release. Don't worry, we're going to get that heart rate back up. Shift to the other side. Right? Extend the leg. Pull yourself up. Right? So you're pulling up. Start the lean. If you were on a bench, right, or your coffee table that had longer space, you would be able to maybe put your hand out further. You know, I just feel like if my elbow goes, this is a much deeper stretch, allowing my elbow to float to the chair. I'm still in good form. That might be too much for you, but you talk about that stretch over that hip line and through the back. Oh man, feels good. Release and relax. All right. So since we have brought the chair into the equation, let's go get up, get your light little weights. Okay. So again, my light weights are my little soup cans. They're like a pound. Seated. Not everybody's going to be able to do this. I don't know if the weight is going to be too much for you, but if you think about making a T, turn the palms up, reach up. We're not letting the weights close in because we want to keep nice, strong, straight limbs. Now, squeeze your weights or your water bottles, or make fists if you're just experimenting. Pull your belly in. I want you to pull the weights apart from each other, and we're at that point, hold that. At that point, you are activating your bicep, and since you drew the weight down, your upper back muscles are working. So you should have felt your shoulder blades slide down, because that's how you offload the shoulders. We're working biceps and back. Turn the hands over, release. Okay. Lift, open across from right to left side, belly to spine, palms are up. Reach up, squeeze, pull it open, gliding your shoulders down. Release the hands to palms down. We're doing 5. Lift, flip, reach, squeeze, and pull down. Stretch it out, release. Lift, flip, right? Squeeze. The hardest thing in combination with all of these, what you're supposed to be doing right now, squeeze, is to also pull your belly into your body. That was your 5, release and relax. Continuing to use our chair, shifting gears to this really nice muscle along the back of your shoulder. It's called your rear delt, okay? So one hand on the chair, get your body in tabletop spine. You want to be in S curve, right? Like you're doing a squat or getting ready to pick up from a deadlift position. So no rounded spine, really important. And that arm is just going to make a beeline straight out. There is a technique. This is one of the, continues to be a hard thing to verbalize, okay? Because it's a nuance. So as the arm initiates its length at about a third of the full travel position, at about a third, if you're not already thinking about gliding the shoulders back and being in the depressed and then retracted position, then you're not getting the right muscle work. So do a couple more, okay? The arm doesn't just swing up. You have to, at about the third of the way, go mind to muscle. Okay, pull my shoulders out of my ears and then start squeezing the upper middle back and release. And the interesting thing that will happen when you do that is your hand grip on your weight should get tighter as you're trying to pinch the shoulder blades together and release, stand up. Let's shift gears. Let's release the spine, shake it off. I know that I'm a technical trainer. So sometimes, because there's so much information to get out, like we start moving and then I start dissecting the movement down. And with me and using a lot of words, I realize it's sometimes hard to stay honed in on precisely what I'm trying to teach you. But the repeating, release and relax, the repeating theme is shoulders down, belly pulls in, buns tighten with your shoulders down. Then we want to take these bones, your scapulas, and we want to try to draw them back into each other. And when they draw back, it expands across your chest. Stay with me. So now, right? That is how you get this long, when we work with weights, you're trying to expand your body. So go into arm number 2. Ready? Square yourself up, soften the knees, get nice flat back, pull your belly up. You can willy-nilly move your arm and go, oh, okay, now let's just put it all into play here, okay? So we're gonna let our gaze track in the direction that our arm is moving at about a third of the lift. Pull your shoulder away from your ear and then grip your weight more firm and see if you can get your arm straight out from the body versus back by your hip and release. Here we go. Push it away. Pull the shoulder away from your ear, pinch the upper middle back and suck your belly up and release. Here, we'll do 5. Big squeeze. If you don't start the priming of shoulder depression, then if you just lift your arm up, you won't be able to get it into the right spot. You have to start depression at a certain point in order to get the retraction. Those two go hand in hand together. This is your last one, and it may even have been an extra one. Release and relax. Back to feet moving. Do you want to go into your imaginary jump rope? Do you want to do chair sit to stands? Do you want to grab your little twisty, your hula hoop? I want you to think we're going to be in this mode for probably 2 minutes, okay? You don't have to do the same movement for 2 minutes. So I'm going to grab my little twisty board because I love this board. All right, my core twister. I have put a few of my male clients on this thing. First off, their feet don't really fit on it. So that's challenge number one. Two, I don't know what the weight limit is. So I'm always thinking that the board's just going to snap in half because they're too heavy. Twist. So if you are using your little twist, you've got your towel out on your floor and you've got that smooth surface and you can just twist yourself around. I know that the towel on the floor with your feet and legs together, you're getting a lot more friction than what my board is creating. So you're actually working harder and you might not be able to keep the tempo I'm keeping, okay? But this movement is just phenomenal. It's just working those, it's not working lower ab. It definitely feels like I'm working right here and around the upper rib. Pull, 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 pull. Now I can bend my legs deeper and go a little faster. Belly to spine. Let's do 10 more twists and then I'll switch to the hula hoop. 9, 8, 7, 6. You could just be marching feet. You could be walking up and down your stairs, Sandy. She's like, don't rat me out. And relax. We have a friend who essentially he's housebound and he has to have his house tinted. And he's pretty much in a wheelchair, but he went about asking me and Rich something without really disclosing why he was asking us these things independent of one another. And then it was only after like he asked us that then another conversation came to light, came out that shed some light on why he even asked us that. So he randomly asked me, do I like where I live? And I was like, well, who wouldn't? Like, it's a beautiful water view from every window, right? And then I did say, but it's got like 50 stairs in it. And he's like, oh, there's no elevator. So if you've gone to your second move, you could still do your twisties. I just wanted to throw something else in. Maybe you're marching feet, you're doing sit to stand, you're walking around your space, you're doing your stairs, you've got your hula hoop out. I want us to feel like we're getting our heart rate up a little bit. Jogging in place would work as well. So he asked me that. Gonna go the other way. And then he says, so does your place have an elevator in it? And I was like, no. I thought this is very, I mean, just out of the blue, this was an odd conversation to have with him because he has been here before. So then he essentially has a series of questions for Rich. And then Rich and I get to talking and I'm like, yeah, Hank asked me some strange things too. Release and relax. Come to find out he needs to have his house tinted and he's looking for a place to stay. But he never said to us, hey, can I come stay at your place? So he navigated grabbing heavier weights. He was on a seeking information, like very subtly to find a solution for this dilemma he's having. Push pull. What is happening right now for the next 6 weeks? Spring break. So listen, this may be too much information, but I feel like, we're one big extended happy family here. If you have too heavy of a weight, what your movement will look like you are just swinging and flailing your arms. This is also what I see. When the arm comes up and crosses to the body, track, even if your palms are forward. You want your arm to track elbow, shoulder, wrist, hip, right? So on the down, you're not just lowering the weight and letting it float back. You are pushing it down. See the muscle in the back of my arm? That is called the tricep. Why not take every advantage of recruiting as many parts of our body, right, as we can under control? We don't want the elbows to slide forward and rock back, right? Because what does that do? Look at my neck. Look at my upper back. I'm like in the worst possible position. My arms aren't even straight. Don't make these, I call them rookie mistakes. And yet every time I'm in the gym, I'm watching people who I know have been training for years. And every time they train, they're making rookie mistakes. Push down, pull and squeeze, push down, pull and squeeze. When you pull up, tighten your grip. When you push down, tighten the grip. 5, 4. Imaginary wall is behind you. 3, pinch your derriere, pull your belly in, push your head back and tuck your chin. 1 more. Release. Set that down. Anyway, so Hank, he can't stay here. Not because we don't want him, but because we don't have any bedrooms and baths accessible for him because he's in a wheelchair. So he let Rich know that he's been calling the local hotels and that the rooms are like $1,000 a night. And Rich was like, why are you trying to stay at a 5-star hotel? And then Rich says, because he needs to have his house tinted, right? Rich says, why don't you just wait until spring break passes and the rates of these hotels come down? It's like, it's an interesting thing when you start problem solving for somebody else, right? Push pull. So that's where we are. Rich and I, and this is what's great about talking, right? Is like we realize we each have had a conversation with this person who shared different parts of the story with us. It was somebody else that actually filled us in on the why he had this conversation with us. And then Rich went back to Hank and said, here's your solution. So that's where we are with that. Meanwhile, this house is so torn up that, you know, it'd be hard to have another body in here. Push, pull, push, pull. I hope that your knees are not protesting, right? If they are, then you just take some of the bend out of it, right? You don't drive your weight forward. Now come back and march and go into the other leg lead, drive it, push it, right? In the past, we've been working on transitions is what it's called, right? So when we shift from one leg lead to the other leg lead, that little thing that happens in the middle to make that happen smoothly is going to be a 3-count step. Let's try it. Pull back. 1, 2, 3. Your other leg is ready to go. Do 3 of these. Get ready. Pull back. 1, 2, 3. The other leg rocks. Now, pull back, march 3. 1, 2, 3. Then you're ready for your next step. Pull back. Okay. And I gypped you out of a step, right? It's okay. My brain, we're going to just stay with march. This is why I never made a good step instructor because it's like squirrel. I get so many things going into my mind that it's always been hard for me to learn. I don't have any problem like scripting a pattern, but jazzercise and body pump classes actually had a routine that every month, maybe it was every month, every quarter, probably every month, they would come out with somebody within the organization, pause on one leg, would design a workout that then, if you were a jazzercise instructor, you would learn that workout so that the launch date of it, regardless of what club you were in, if the class was a jazzercise class, everybody was doing the same class for the launch date of that new workout and new music. It never worked for me. Switch sides. So though I was a body pump instructor, it didn't take me long to realize that that my strengths were not being fulfilled. So I stopped teaching it because I just couldn't. I didn't desire to have a class formatted, right? Push pull. I hope you're finding this relatively challenging, right? Don't stop. Let me just turn for a second, okay? So the height of your leg, right, will two things will happen. You can put your leg down while I'm talking if you need to, but if this extending leg is too high, then your other leg is going to buckle and your whole body movement is just, none of it is going to be clean. So I'd rather you stand firm on your stability leg, find the correct angle. How low do you need your extending leg to be so that you really can extend it without being here on both legs? So how do we make the glute work? How do we make the hip flexor strong? That's holding the high leg up. And also quad. Do one more. Push, walk it out. Okay, time for deadlifts. Do you want to practice your deadlift minus weight? Hands to the thighs, feet hip width apart. You're looking straight ahead. If you're looking at the screen, that's fine, right? Guess what? When you start your slide down, right, the knees soften. If you're looking at the screen as you're here, start letting your gaze track so that you're now looking at the floor. And then the eyes track down and your hands go right to the knees. Depending on how strong and flexible your hamstrings are, you can slide deeper so long as your spine doesn't round, okay? So there is not an issue with you having your arms reaching below your knees so long as your back maintains a rigidity to it. And now up pull, using your glutes, up pull, 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 and squeeze, belly to spine, release. You have to decide if you're going to stay with no weights, light weights, or go for the heavies. Here we go. Square up the feet. Don't let those toes turn out, okay? Put them forward. Soften your knees. Drive the hips back and you're into hip hinge and you're looking down at the floor without the head hanging. So push the back of the head back and tuck the chin. And the arms just slide down the fronts of the thighs. If at any point you feel your spine round, you need to bend your legs more so that you can up pull on your torso. But you get to explore how low can you take your body, pull yourself back up. Lower isn't better. I just want you to know that you don't have to stop at the knees. Stopping at the knees or just below the kneecap is quite a protective position because it allows you to adjust what your back is doing, right? And not only that, if you bend your legs, it will feel like a squat, but yet you'll be able to get your back flat. Okay, so pull up. We should be able to do a movement that looks like a hip hinge, right? belly to spine. Your hamstrings tell you a lot right now. Pull up, squeeze. Your sensation, this is your last one, in the back of your thigh from right to left side might have two different feelings, okay? So especially for us, come up, especially for us that play other sports, set your weight down. We're going to get the heart rate back up. I want to stay with my hula and my twisty, right? You can just march in place, right? You can do your chair sit to stands if you want, but I'm going to go back to hula. So because pickleball is, you know, my other activity that I really do, I know that sometimes there are things in pickleball that stress a part of me more than the other side of me. So for example, doing the deadlifts just then, I realized that my left hamstring actually has a sensitivity to it that my right one doesn't. And that just means that my dominant side is probably, you know, keeps getting pulled at, and I haven't strained it, but it feels different. So this is the thing about being very aware of shoulders, elbows, hips, knees, quads, ankles. Like you can know if you're doing hula with me, do it the other way. If you're doing the movement of hula without your hula, do it the other way, right? If you want to make your hula harder, get your legs together. Oh my goodness. Now, anywho, it's not always pretty. This is why I just put something in for a couple of minutes, right? Couple times a week, couple of minutes, just to make sure that I still have the skill set to do it, even though it's not really pretty. So yesterday I'm playing pickleball, and believe it or not, because I don't follow like truly the athletes of the sport, I don't ever know who's on the court other than my local people that I'm used to playing with. Triceps, lightweight. So yesterday morning, evidently there was a professional guy out there, younger guy, and he was, you know, taking it easy on everybody, but having a good time, push pull. And I never got to play with him as my partner, only an opponent. But he walks up to me after and he says, "Were you a tennis player?" Now, I only find that funny because I wanted to be a tennis player, but I didn't have time to take up the sport because I was working when I was in high school. So I never got to do athletics in school because I just didn't have the time. I hope that you've picked a weight that's light enough that permits you to take your forward rolled shoulder that wants to be that way. And you're like, oh, okay, how do I roll it back and lengthen my arm? Look at what I'm doing with my other hand. Push it away, right? Just that. I'm holding a 1 pound can, and that lengthening aspect, I don't have to hinge for 15 reps. Just static hold is all I need to fire it up. I can, with my arm extended, twist it, and the intensity of that muscle working is really great. And release. Whew. The thing about your tricep kickback is if your shoulder isn't in its proper rolled back position, then when you extend your arm, the elbow is going the wrong way. And I know that seems odd, but the elbow is rolled out. If your elbow is rolled out, then that means your shoulder is rolled in. So how do we get this rolled back position and the arm fully lengthened? Sorry to give you the back body line, but you see there is a clean, true tracking of the limb. Okay, so now can offset. All I've done is stagger stride my feet. If you don't want to be here, you can crunch down even deeper if you want to get your quads working. The trick is, how do we create space from the bottom of your chest to your navel? That's how you get your arm to track in the right position. So here we go, 5. Anyway, 4, 3. I would have loved to have an in-depth conversation with him, but release and relax. I've never seen video of me playing pickleball. But the funny thing is there is a comment that keeps coming. Oh, you must have been a tennis player, because I think that I do a lot wrong in pickleball, because I don't think that you're actually supposed to, like, it's not supposed to be so dramatic, and everything that I do has like follow through, and like I'm thinking like floaty, but that's not how you win in pickleball. So anyway, I got a big kick out of that. Coming down on your mat. Thought it was sweet, and I would have loved to have played with him as my partner, because he's like young and like buff and handsome, and not only those reasons, but he had so much muscle mass on him, and he was just light and fluid. And one of the ladies says, once he left, she's like, do you think he's on steroids? I said, no. I said, I don't think so. I was like, she said, he's going to have a problem in a few years if he's not careful. And she's like, but he surprisingly moves like he's not stiff for as much muscle tone as he has. And I'm like, I know, he's like really fluid, right? Like I was seeing all of the positive aspects of his muscle density and youth. And I'm just going into a nice, easy little stretch, and then we're going to do something for your glute medius over here. So whether your legs are folded under each other, right, stacked, right, bottom leg is extended, you decide what position you need to be in. We're just trying to pull our body to stretch that hip. By the way, this isn't the hip we're getting ready to work. We're getting ready to work the other side. Now, come onto your elbow for a moment. I'm going to give you varying degrees for this next position. Elbow support with shoulder assist. That's your prop up. Some of you know the actual name of this move. Give you a moment to think about it, and then congratulate yourself if you said, oh, what is that? Clam shell. This is a version of clam shell. So now we're going to go to version number 2. Is the foot lifts in conjunction with the knee. It's already happening, right? Here we go. The leg stays nice and bent. Pull it up. If being on your elbow is too intense, pull yourself down. If you pull yourself down, you will be able to lift your leg a little bit higher, right? Higher is not necessarily better. If this is too hard, go back to feet together. And now you're done with clamshell. Offset the legs. This has just been primed. Can you pick up the back leg and set it down? Now, your body is telling you some things right now, okay? If it's really hard for you to lift the back leg, then you're just going to stay on your elbow, because this will make it a more doable movement. All right. So option number 2, right? Option number 1, touch, lean, and lift. And now hold your lift. Look at your leg. Watch the leg push back while it maintains the same angle of bent leg position, right? As it rocks forward and back. That may be too much. You may have to opt for being on your elbow so that you can control your abs. When the leg pushes back, squeeze your buns. We don't want our trunk to be rocking. We want to stabilize the hips and move the leg so that the correct muscle is working. Here we go. 5, 4, 3. to smile, release and relax. That should have felt like a real pain, a pain in the you-know-where, a pain in your gluteus medius. Other side. This is your little stacked little stretch. It might be harder to actually sit on this side now that you've worked it, but this stretch right through the body line, right? Pull yourself away from the leg or pull into it, however you want to look at it. We're leaning in the most awkward direction, right? All right, clamshell. Support yourself on your elbow. The knees are forward of the hips, right? We're going to start with the feet together, open and close. Even with a movement like this, right? You get to hold yourself up so you're bracing muscles, which would be your shoulder stabilizers, your core. That term core strength gets thrown around. And I think a lot of people don't actually understand what parts of your body incorporate your core strength. Next phase, if you want to go to it, is to get the foot, right, to lift with the knee. This is a little bit harder because the knee wants to float away from the body. So pull it forward, right? Rock the knee up. There we go. The elbow is pushing into the floor to help you posture. You can stretch yourself out, right? So you're having less fight with your body. Do 2 more. And then we're going to get into the glute medius. Now, bring it down. Push yourself, offset your legs. Decide if you can just stabilize yourself by helping anchor with your hands on that front leg. You lean, the trunk stays long, pick up the back leg and touch down. Just leveraging yourself, trying to get the back leg off the floor, that might be all that you can, like, it might barely be moving. To help yourself out, just stay on your elbow because it lengthens your line to help free up your limb. So you get to decide, is this where you're going to stay? Or you're going to stay here, lift the leg and drive it back. Look at your own leg. If your knee is swinging forward, it's kind of cheating. You want to watch the knee push behind the hip line without your upper body rocking forward. So stabilize your middle, belly to spine. As the leg pushes back, pinch your bun. How hard is that to connect? Get ready, pinch your bun and pull your belly in. That's how you brace the hips so that your body is stable and you're not cheating with momentum. Push for your last time. Release and relax. None of that should have felt easy. Release out of it, give it a little shake. And do you remember at the beginning of class, I said that we were going to do almost 10 minutes of stretching inner thigh, hip flexor, and quad. We're at that time, okay? So if you need to go, you're going to miss out on some really fabulous stretches. But if you have time to stay, you will need a pillow, something that gives your knee really good support, okay? So we're going to start with inner thigh. And I'm going to do part of the movement facing forward and then part of it with my body turned the other way. So you're on your knee, take your other leg, stretch it out. Being right over the center on that kneecap is not what we're after. This is a little precarious getting into because you have to be able to manipulate your weight. So hands come down. You want to try to get off the kneecap, top center, and get on. If we had If I had a little like white circle, the bullseye on, so you're not going to press top kneecap. You're going to try to go on the inside, which is really hard to see, but using your hands to help manipulate your weight, take the foot, turn it out. That's a frog stretch position. And then make sure that your kneecap is pointing away. And this is where you start. You might not get any further than this. Okay. So now you're going to look at your straight foot, or the foot that goes on the straight leg. Roll the big toe towards the floor and then push the pinky toe towards the floor. And when you push the pinky toe towards the floor, it's going to straighten that leg. All right. Your body may be in a slight hinge position. This is the part where now your stretch, your real stretch is going to happen. Your goal is to pull yourself up like you're sandwiched between two boards, okay? Belly to spine. This is version 1. Keep holding. Version 2 is the same leg position, except you bring your hands to the floor and you try to shove the hips back. You get to decide if this is too much. This is so much more intense, bringing your hands to the floor and being in hinge. But in hinge here, without your hands touching the floor, you're cheating. So commit, either support and push the hips back, or come up and tuck the hips under. And now ease out of it, switch sides, okay? It is an interesting thing that there are so many versions of stretching inner and outer thighs, quads, hip flexors, all of that, right? How do you decide which stretch is the best one for you, right? That's this thing. I can't decide that for you. All I can do is just continue to present a lot of options, and then with the options, give you the specifics of, if you're opting for this is not less than this. They are two very different feels like of a stretch. And this is the great thing about, if your body does both versions, to spend a little bit of time in this, pulling the hips through, zipping up through the abs, just you going into pelvic tilt. Oh, try that. Oh, no wonder why we have so much pain in our body. Our hinge, these parts that lock in to our trunk, those junction boxes, everything is so tight through there. Now release. Help yourself out of it. Come down just for a moment. Come down, sit, relax. Okay. One leg crosses over the other. Bend it. This is your little piriformis stretch. Okay. So your foot, this support leg out here, where are you going to put that? Wherever you put it, you just want to feel like you're treating and getting a little stretch in the hip. What your arms are going to do, you're going to try to push yourself up. Rock from side to side if you can. We're just allowing the knees and the inner thighs to relax from the intensity of what you just did to them. Okay, release, relax, switch sides. Oh, woo. All right, push, rock from side to side. The rocking is an option. You might not be able to rock. It might not even feel good for you to be on your wrists. Maybe you have to come down on your elbows and you're like, oh, I never thought that I could come down on my elbows. You have free will. And unless something is actually hurting you, it's not wrong. So if this is super uncomfortable because you can't get your shoulders and your neck where you know they're supposed to be, then you change the angle to accommodate your body. And now release out of it. Do you remember? We have to do the hip flexor stretch. Okay. We don't have to, but it would be prudent. So again, kneeling comes into play, right? Knees on your nice squishy pillow. Step one leg forward. Tuck. You have options. How far forward do you want to push your movement? Maybe you're like, it feels good to push and pull. We don't have to hold static and uncomfortable. I will tell you though, that if you're here with your shoulders and head forward of your hips, then you're missing the entire purpose. Pull your body up, and then maybe your back foot, you can lay it down or you can intensify by flexing it, and that might give you all the power you need to then go into pelvic tilt, and then you just float forward just a little bit. Take your upper body, twist it towards this front leg, holding for 5, keeping the buns tucked under, 4, 3, 2, and now I'm going to do something else. As you start transitioning to the other side, like some of you are able to go a little bit deeper and go into your quad stretch, right? If you had your little yoga strap and you strapped your foot, you might be able to float into this. So be prepared. This is coming to you in your next workout with me, right? But I'll prepare you with having your foot strapped and your yoga strap ready to go so that we can go right into the next phase. Switch legs, flex the foot if you want a little bit more, zip and tuck. This front foot, it can't be really close to the other leg because it doesn't give you anywhere to float into. So move it forward. Feel yourself glide forward and back because your body's giving you a lot of sensory right now. It's saying, oh, I don't feel so much back here. And oh, I feel a little bit more here. Where is your sweet spot that you don't feel like you're straining, but that you're receiving this like, oh, wow. It's like fabulous. Okay. Now that you're in it, tuck the bun, zip the belly in, glide your shoulders out of your ears, and then twist your body towards that front leg a little bit. When you're twisting, keep trying to tuck the hips under, glide the ribs down without rounding your back. Like it all has to do with this part of your body right here. Glide your shoulders down so that the ribs and the abs pull in without you rounding. If you had a mirror, you would see as your body release and relax. As your body tries to take the words that I'm saying and you try to then apply it, your body kind of starts moving. And that's why your mirror is super important, because you get to watch yourself going, oh, I really did just round my shoulders right there. And then how do you keep your parts tight and then get out of rounded shoulders? Like you can understand why there's a conflict, nuances. I feel like I've used my 17,000 words today. So I'm done. I hope you guys have a great day.